Impact segment tonight, the nation was stunned when Congressman Joe Wilson from South Carolina interrupted President Obama's speech last month.
There are also those who claim that our reform efforts would ensure illegal immigrants. This, too, is false. The reforms I'm proposing would not apply to those who are here illegally. It's not true.
Well, now there's new information that says illegal aliens may well indeed receive Obamacare if the bill passes. Joining us now from Atlanta, constitutional attorney Shannon Gessling, and here in the studio, Fox News senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napalitano, author of the book Dred Scott's Revenge, A Legal History of Race and Freedom in America. So, Judge, you say illegals will have to get health care, if it passes, government-mandated health care, under equal protection.
Absolutely. The last time the Supreme Court looked at this was when the state of Texas tried to keep the municipalities in Texas from educating the children of illegals. And the case made its way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said the government can't do that because the Constitution protects persons. It doesn't distinguish between legal and illegal.
It's all persons. So if you're here, no matter how you got here, then you can partake in what America has.
With respect to a social benefit like education or health care. And the president, as a former professor of constitutional law and a graduate of Harvard Law School, ought to have known that.
Okay, but he's going to put it in the bill, or somebody will, that it doesn't cover illegals, and they're going to put it through the courts. They're going to, you know, that's what they'll do.
And the court will invalidate, if it stays with what the present case law is, the court will invalidate any provision that tries to punish people.
But President Obama, if I were president, I'd do the same thing. I said, look, I'm going to challenge that ruling. I'm going to put in that this entitlement doesn't extend to illegal aliens, and then we'll let the Supreme Court decide.
And then he gets credit for doing what he said he was going to do, and the court looks like the boogeyman, but he knows where this is going to end up. And so Joe Wilson, not to comment on the time, place, and manner of what he said, may have known the Constitution better than the president did.
If he indeed was referencing that. How do you see it, Shannon?
Well, I hate to just chime in, but the judge is right. There's actually Prop 187, which is the California proposition, which was related to social services. There was actually a case that was brought. Congress reacted to the attempt by California to exclude illegal aliens from social services, not dissimilar to the Texas case that the judge is talking about. Congress enacted legislation that made it impossible to exclude illegal aliens. And in fact, put it in a real-world context, you have the President of the United States, the highest law enforcement officer, graduate of Harvard, editor of the Law Review, who is suggesting that he doesn't know the consequences of the public option. And the public option carries with it all the baggage that the government takes with it.
So you concur with the judge that if this passes, the government-mandated part of it has to extend to everybody in the United States, whether they're here illegally or not. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely. And the judge... Well, you cannot avoid constitutional precedent, and you can't avoid it in the way that there's a suggestion that the president is going to make an exception.
In your opinion, Shannon, was Obama grandstanding here?
I don't necessarily have an issue about the grandstanding. What I'd rather say is that this is a political comment rather than a legal commentary.
Do you think he knew? Do you think he knew that he was in shaky ground here constitutionally?
I have no doubt he's on shaky ground constitutionally.
No, do you think he knew he was? Do you think he intentionally misled us? See, if he knew if he knew what Napalitano just said, that look, no matter what I write in there, it's not going to matter because it's already been decided. And then he said it anyway because I didn't. When he said it, I said, "Ooh, that sounds good. He's a tough guy." Okay, I didn't know that the other stuff was in there.
The public caveat emptor is buyer beware. The public should be forewarned and forearmed that this
I should have been smarter. I should have been smarter. You should have called me, Napolitano. Right there, you should have called me up. Because I didn't know that this legal precedent had happened.
Couple of points. The government will spend billions to pay illegal aliens before the case even makes its way to the Supreme Court to pay for their health care. And do you know who agrees with Shannon and me? The Congressional Budget Office, whose report came out last night, and it included the expenditures for illegal aliens.
All right. Okay, so now we know, and I want to apologize to the audience. I wish I had known on the spot, but I did not. Now, in the Mojave Desert, there's a cemetery, and there's a cross, and it's been there for decades, and now they want to take it down. So why do they want to take it down, Judge?
The ACLU wants to take it down because they think it's an endorsement of the principles of Christianity. In the Supreme Court's opinion yesterday, I read the transcript. I wasn't there in the courtroom. In my opinion, the court will not order it taken down, but it will not rule on a religious issue. It will say the ACLU doesn't have standing to challenge it, because this court does not want to get into the weeds.
So they'll
of whether
find
that cross,
a technicality.
what you would call a technicality.
They'll find a technicality,
what
not
they would call
like
a constitutional obstacle to hearing the case.
What do you think, Shannon?
Well, I feel like I'm riding the coattails of the judge.
Which is a dangerous, dangerous place to be, I'll tell you. Very dangerous.
I have to tell you that if you're going to avoid an issue, you definitely want to avoid this issue, because the ground has already been laid. We're talking about a cross that represents the service of our military, and the suggestion that it implicates separation of church and state and the First Amendment is really an extraordinary leap from a historical standpoint. It has a secular organization that placed it there 70 years ago. It sat undisturbed for 60 years until the ACLU wants to jump in and convince somebody
they're a bunch
to
of
be
good guys.
offended.
And I might tell the audience that they have put a shroud over the cross until the decision comes down. So you both think that the Supreme Court is going to find a way to let the cross stay there.
Without the shroud.
Right. On a technicality.
Without the shroud and without reaching the issue.
Yes.
All right. Thanks you both very much. Directly ahead.